Welcome to the Geek podcast, where I'm not going to actually do my normal intro this week. I am getting over whatever it was that I was fighting off last week. You remember that? Listen to the last episode. Well, I completely lost my voice the day after that, and I just got it back. And this is like the night before the show goes live. We missed all of our normal recording times because I couldn't talk, and you can't really do a podcast when you can't talk. So I told Beej that what we should do is each record like 10 or 15 minutes because I thought that I would probably be able to by tonight, and I can, thankfully, and I could just stitch them together, and we would do kind of an off-week episode, because I never want to miss an episode, but sometimes life happens, and we don't get to do what we planned. So next week, we'll be back with our Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I did see that, by the way. I don't know if BJ has yet, and we'll be back with that. I'm hoping it'll just be a normal episode next week. I'm on the mend, but for now, I'm going to throw it over to BJ, who has, I think, recorded something. He told me he would. I will edit it in here, and then I'll be back with me.
So you guys probably realize that this is a weird episode by now, that Void and I have had a very strange week. He is absurdly sick while we're recording this. Remember a couple of weeks ago, well, I guess it was more than a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, whenever I had no voice and I sounded all terrible and like a monster. Well, apparently that was him earlier. So that's why you get this wonderful dual monologue episode of all geekery, which you guys do tend to love, so I'm very happy to be able to talk about this. My week has been absolutely crazy as well, and it's been one of the hardest weeks of my life, not necessarily emotionally, but physically. So my geekery this week is physical labor for a lot of it, because when I finished up the book festival, I went to the follow-up meeting, the debrief meeting we had. It was all absolutely wonderful. We were talking about everything that was going on, what we could do better next time. And I made the comment, whatever you want to do, we can keep me on because I'm technically unemployed after this meeting. And when that happened, the committee chair runs an event planning company with her husband. An event setup company, I guess is the best way to put it, is they put up the tents and tables and linens and provide bars with kegs in them, just anything that you need to set up these large lavish parties, theme parties, whatever it is. And she texted me that night and said if I wanted a job that I could do some temp work, that they had a really crazy week ahead of them, and that if I didn't mind putting up some tents and carrying stuff around, that it would be a good way to get to know them and potentially move into some of their web stuff to see how I work, how they work, and how the company works. So I did this. I jumped at it because, work is work, right? I'm unemployed. Don't have a contract, and so I need to work. I'm not the most physically able person in the world. I always joke that I'm made of spaghetti because I'm a runner. I don't tend to have a lot of strength when it comes to stuff like that, and they were cool with that. So when I started this last week, it was on Wednesday, and I got thrown in. It was a trial by fire, and I was in with guys who did this for a living. This was their job, putting up 100-foot by 40-foot event tents, 2 of these, and just carrying things around, putting these up. And if you guys have never done that, it's hard. That it's a week later now as of this recording, and my body still hurts. But not just from that. The next 4 or 5 days, I put in about 52 hours from about 7:30 in the morning to often around 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 at night. And of pretty much all lifting, carrying, moving stuff around. It got me active. It got me in a good place with these people who run this, with Josh and Jackie and Deborah. It was absolutely a fantastic opportunity. And even though that is not something that I do, learning the culture, learning these people was great for me. And I feel good because it was something that I've never done. I've never really done a lot of hard physical labor to make make money. And so it was something that I'm really proud of myself for, that I was proud of myself from something I talked with my counselor a while back on. Work is work, that whenever you have to find a job, you find a job when you can. And I did something that is absolutely not what I'm trained for, and I am not good at it. I told my supervisor, Josh, I was like, I'm terrible at this. And he's like, BJ, you did a fantastic job. And my response was, you are a liar. And he smiled and laughed like, BJ, you have tried really hard. And I was like, that I have, because that's the way it was. I tried really hard, and I know I'm not good at it. But that's led me into a position that's going to move into marketing, redesigning their websites, recreating them after a major hack, working on their e-commerce stuff, and potentially even going in as a partner on one of their upcoming projects that is going to be a major e-commerce solution for them to get different kinds of products out there. And so all of that came because I was willing to take on a project that came my way that was completely out of my wheelhouse, completely just different than anything that I ever thought that I would do, is event setup, because like I said, I made out of spaghetti, and it turns out that it may open up into something that is exactly what I do. And they run on WordPress, they do all of this, which is exactly what I've moved into and set up. So by doing this stuff that wasn't what I have set out to do, it opened up an opportunity which may be an extended form, an extended opportunity for a job. And so because of that, and because it was so hard, I am trying to find a shiny new toy. Because of the money I earned doing this and how hard it was on me, my wife was like, just buy yourself something to feel better. So I'm trying to decide what kind of shiny new thing I want to buy. I told you guys recently that she went and bought a new table saw a while back, and so I'm trying to think of what I want to play with. I don't think it'll be a table saw. I'm aiming right now, I'm looking at the Apple Watch Series 2 because I found a cheap one for like $170, and that's a lot of money for a watch. And so I'm really trying to figure out if that's what I want or something completely different. I'd thought about just going ahead and getting a Switch, but at the same time, getting a Switch is kind of redundant at the moment because I've got the Wii U, and what I want to play is Mario Kart and Zelda on the Switch, and I have access to both of those on the Wii U, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Maybe later on in the year when the Zelda expansion pass is released on what the second DLC is going to be, and when Mario Odyssey and a couple others come out, I'll grab a Switch then. But right now, I just don't know what to buy myself. I'm in a position where I can buy myself something awesome that I've been looking forward to, and I can't think of anything I've been looking really forward to. So you guys should probably throw ideas at me here to see what I need to geek out about, because I'm geeking out about other things, but not anything like fun. So moving into the freelancing stuff, and like I said, these people were using WordPress. They're also wanting to migrate to a new host. So the last few days, I've been really geeking out about web hosting. And that may sound silly, but I'm having a really, really good time because I've been wanting a new web host as I'm trying to consolidate my web presence. I'm trying to take everything from geekfitness.net and professorbeej.com and really combine it into a bjkeaton.com personal brand and have my blogs, all just one blog about all of the things that I do, about web development, about fitness, about pop culture, just all of this in one place instead of spread out in multiples. And so I'm looking to figure out a better web solution for that rather than HostGator shared hosting. And I found one that I'm really, really, really liking right now called Cloudways. It is a fantastic service that lets you set up cloud servers by like picking whether you want DigitalOcean or Vultr or Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Platform, and then you use their platform to do it, the Cloudways platform to actually interact with it. And it's very, very interesting so far. I'm in the middle of migrating all of my stuff there to see if I can get see how it all works together. And I'm having a little bit of issues with the DNS servers because HostGator is kind of terrible for that the way that they have the DNS set up in their cPanel is rather terrible. So what I'm doing is transferring my domains from HostGator that I have there to Namecheap and to Google Domains. Once that transfer is done, hopefully the DNS will propagate so that I can keep everything pointed at the new server that I've set up with multiple installs of WordPress, and then be able to keep everything moving around like it needs to and have it pointing in the right direction. If that happens, it's going to open up if this works out and it's not that hard to set up once I've actually figured out what I'm doing, it will be really easy to include hosting in web maintenance contracts for clients. It will also be very easy for me to do this new job to set up and say, okay, this is exactly what we do. I can manage this. I know the insides and outs, and it's really easy for me to teach you once I work out all of the kinks myself. So I'm really excited to learn this. This is a fairly new side of web development for me because I've always been in the platform, the native software, and relied on, and FTP obviously, but been mostly in the cPanel side of things. And I'm really excited to learn a lot more about the DNS and the cloud server stuff that's going on that I've never dug into before. And, outside of that kind of techie geek stuff, I'm still reading on Mistborn. It is awesome. I'd forgotten how good this book is. It's Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and it's just so good. I can't even go into how good it is. You guys have heard Void and I go on and on and on about how fantastic Brandon Sanderson books are, and this is one of the first ones of his that I read, and it is about what it is a heist novel. I guess I should go ahead and just put it that way. It's a heist novel that is set up with the idea of what if the heroes succeed in their plan in the first part of the story, and then the last two are what happens after they've overthrown the government and beat the big bad. It's a really, really cool concept, and it's so good. So if you would like to listen to it on audiobook, you can always go to audibletrial.com/geek2geekcast and get this fantastic book and get it for free as an audiobook and support the podcast. And I mean, it's something I'm reading right now that I've already read that I know is fantastic, and that I'm going to be going back through the entire series that leads up to the two other Mistborn books that I've not read in the second series, and then it's all part of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere that the Way of Kings and that series, the Stormlight Archive, goes into, is a part of, and that the third one is coming out in the fall. So I'm really excited to kind of work my way through the Cosmere in preparation for the next Cosmere book. So yeah, if you want, you can go to audibletrial.com/geek2geekcast and grab that as an audiobook. It would be fantastic. And that's just part of my geekery this week. So I hope that I have been entertaining in my monologue toward you guys about my geekery this week and my physical labor and my web hosting and reading. And like I said, if you guys have any kind of suggestions on a shiny new toy that I should look into that maybe I don't know about that's going to be absolutely awesome, let me know, because I'm in the market. I will see you guys and talk to you guys on Twitter, and as always, you can find me at geekfitness.net, where I podcast, and as at Professor Beej on Twitter, and apparently bjkeaton.com if it ever works out. I have part of my freelance side up there now, so check it out. Let me know what you think. What should I fix? And honestly, whether or not the DNS works for you right now. So I will see you guys and talk to you next week, where Void and I will be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, because while I was putting up tents, I was not able to watch a raccoon blow things up. So sad times.
Okay, through the magic of editing, I'm back. Hello. I have been sick, as you know, but I do have some geekery, and like I said, I wanted to put out some kind of episode this week. My voice is getting better, I promise. Next week. So I tried a bunch of stuff while I was kind of homesick this weekend, things I've been meaning to get to that I just haven't, and I bounced off a lot of them. So I can run through those quick because they're not super fun to dive into with BJ. Like I don't like talking about like negative things when we have the back and forth. It's always more fun to talk about the positive things. So a couple of the things that like I just didn't stick with this week that I did try. I tried the new Bill Nye show called Bill Nye Saves the World. It's on Netflix. It wasn't the content that put me off. It was the editing style and the studio audience. Those two things put together, and I just couldn't do it as someone who edited video professionally. Like it just really bugged me. So I bounced off that one pretty hard. I tried Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I can see why people like that show. The new one, this is another Netflix one that just came out. Mystery Science Theater's back, if you guys didn't know that. I thought it was okay, but I have fun making fun of bad movies with my wife. And the whole time I was watching it, I felt like I would rather just turn off the audio and just make fun of it on my own time with my wife, because that's what we do and we have fun with it. So instead of having other people do it for me, which is a much more passive activity, I don't know. It didn't click as much with me. But hey, I'm glad it's back. I know a lot of people are loving it. So hopefully some of you out there like that. And if you didn't know it was back, hey, now you know. You can go check it out. Your mileage will vary, I'm sure. I tried out the Prey demo on PS4, and it kind of has, it wasn't a bad game. I just bounced off of it because I'm not in the mood for this type of game. It kind of has the feel of those like exploration shooter games where you have to check everything and take your time, and it's environmental storytelling. So think about like Deus Ex series or some of the BioShock games, or like Thief, things like that. Or like Dishonored, almost, kind of, not as actiony as Dishonored, but that's kind of how it felt. It's environmental storytelling. It's, aliens and a space station. And if you're into that kind of thing, this game looked great. And I guess I just wasn't in the mood for it at all. I might swing back around to it later one of these days, but like this weekend just wasn't it. And part of it is I might have been sick, so I might have been, well, I know I was sick, but I might have been more harsh on the things I was trying than I normally am. The last thing that I really, really, really wanted to like, and I only got a couple hours into, was Cosmic Star Heroine. I know that you guys heard BJ and I talking about this off and on for the last few months, and it's kind of a Chrono Trigger / Phantasy Star inspired, 2D pixel art RPG, and it's okay. It's okay. I don't know. I didn't love the combat style, and the story wasn't doing a whole lot for me. I think part of the problem is that it felt so much like Chrono Trigger that I wanted it to be Chrono Trigger, and it's not. It's a sci-fi game. It's telling a totally different story. The battle system is tweaked from that, so it's not a typical JRPG battle system. But despite those things, it was close enough that it made me want to just be playing Chrono Trigger instead, which is never a good feeling when you're constantly comparing the game that you're actively playing to one that you've played in the past and you loved, and it's not measuring up. So it might have been an unfair comparison, but it was one that I couldn't help making. So I played probably 2 or 3 hours of it, and I just kind of set it down. And I'm not sure if I'll go back to it, honestly. I think if I get in the mood for that kind of game, I'll probably boot up Chrono Trigger again. So yeah, I'm curious to see what Beej says in another week or two here. I know he's tried it at least a little bit. So, things I did not bounce off of. I didn't bounce off of absolutely everything. I read Thrawn, which was really good. And in terms of Star Wars books, it's way up there in the new canon. It's probably in the top 2 or 3 books in the new canon. In terms of books in general, it's still a pretty good book. Star Wars books, compared to just all books ever, it's different scales you're grading on here, but I still thought Thrawn was pretty good. It's all about just his perspective and like where he's coming from, and this really gets him back into the new canon. And then it ties directly into Rebels season 3, and I didn't really realize it while I was reading the book, but by the time I finished the book, I went, oh yeah, he did start to show up in Rebels season 3. So I went back and I watched the second half of Rebels season 3, and it was really good. The Thrawn ties almost directly into it. Like you get a whole story by reading Thrawn, but there's definitely a couple threads that pick up in Star Wars Rebels. And a lot of the stuff that I complained about before, like the one-off episodes or the characters that aren't the main like Jedi storyline, a lot of that is getting fixed as time goes on. The droid episodes are still boring. I just can't do it. I get so bored of those. But besides those, like Sabine is interesting now. Zeb is interesting now. Finally, like the Rebellion and the Empire episodes are much, much more engaging and much more interesting than they ever were in the past seasons. And the Jedi episodes are still good. The Jedi episodes have always been the consistent best part of Rebels, even from the beginning. All of those are good. It's firing on all cylinders. I loved it, and I really liked where it ended. So I'm super excited to see season 4, which it's looking like that might be the last season of Rebels. But yeah, if you haven't caught up on Rebels, I recommend it because season 3 is better than even the last 2. It was just great. And then the last thing I didn't bounce off of this week, Mario Kart 8. I've been playing it a lot. I was playing it with my kids. I've been playing it a little bit with my wife. I've been playing it on my own time. It's still Mario Kart 8, but it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's on the Switch. And honestly, it's the best Mario Kart that's ever been released. And this is the best version of that Mario Kart. They don't gate things behind a lot of unlockables. You get almost everything except for kart parts right away, which I loved because I've already unlocked all those on the Wii U. I didn't want to have to like work my way up through the cups. You know, you start it and everything is unlocked right from the beginning. All the characters, all the levels, all the cups. That was really nice to see. And then there's 2 items, whereas in Mario Kart 8, you can only have 1 item at a time. Now you can have 2, which changes the gameplay a lot. It makes it a little bit more crazy, but just like those older Mario Kart games that always had 2 items. So I like that about it. I think it's a better decision than only having 1. And I definitely missed a second item when I was playing the original version of this game. So to see it come back into the game was a huge plus for me. And then 2 of the other options that they added for this, there's an always accelerate option and there's a steer assist option. And these are for, I mean, it could be for a bunch of different people, but honestly, like, it is so good with kids. And I think, you know, if you're a person who needs to custom map your games or you have any disabilities you're dealing with and you can't play games when, you know, the developer doesn't think of you, like, this is one where you can probably figure out a way to play this game too. But I can't speak to that. I can speak to the kid part of it. My son always got frustrated with Mario Kart 8, and so he never got to play it quite as much as my daughter wanted to because my daughter just loves Mario Kart. So she and I would play, but he would get frustrated. But with these 2 options, I can turn on always accelerate and I can turn on steer assist for him. And he actually does pretty well. He's not getting frustrated. He's not always coming in last. He's coming in the middle of the pack a lot of the time. And he's won a couple races, which is kind of surprising, but also very, very cool. So it's good to see that they're putting in more options so that families can play together. Yeah, and I don't know, I love it. It's a really good version of Mario Kart 8. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is getting a lot of playtime in my house. But that's kind of it. That's what I've been doing this week. Besides that, I pushed myself to get through the work week last week, and I'm just trying to get better. So that's about it for this week. I'm not even going to do our normal intro. It's been a long week, guys. Thanks for sticking with this interlude episode. Next week, we should hopefully be back to normal. That's it. I'll see you next week, geeks. Bye.